What if I told you that the biggest thing a narcissist steals isn't your money, your time, or even your relationships, but your ability to feel joy? And the most disturbing part is that they rarely do it through obvious cruelty. Instead, they take it quietly, one small moment at a time, until you wake up one day wondering why nothing excites you anymore. If you've ever questioned why you stopped laughing, stopped dreaming, or started feeling guilty for simply being happy, stay with me until the very end. Because once you understand these hidden patterns, you'll never mistake them for love again, and you'll finally know how to protect the part of yourself they were trying to erase. One of the earliest and most damaging changes that happens in a narcissistic relationship is that joy slowly becomes something you feel guilty about. In the beginning, you may naturally want to share the things that make you happy. You get good news at work, someone compliments you, you accomplish a goal, or you simply have a wonderful day. In a healthy relationship, these moments are welcomed. The other person smiles, asks questions, celebrates with you, and makes your happiness feel safe. But with a narcissistic person, the emotional atmosphere often changes the moment you express joy. They may become unusually quiet, give a sarcastic response, remind you of a mistake you made, or immediately shift the conversation back to themselves. Sometimes they say things like, "must be nice," or "don't get too excited." None of these reactions seem dramatic on their own, which is why they are so easy to overlook. Yet your brain notices the pattern. After enough repetitions, you begin associating happiness with discomfort. You start hesitating before sharing good news. You downplay your achievements so they won't react negatively. You celebrate privately instead of openly. You may even apologize for being excited, saying things like, "It's probably not a big deal," before telling someone about an accomplishment. This is not humility. It is emotional conditioning. Your nervous system has learned that expressing joy may lead to criticism, jealousy, withdrawal, or conflict. Over time, the most painful part is that the narcissist no longer has to diminish your happiness because you begin doing it automatically. You silence your own excitement before anyone else can. Many people leave these relationships and are shocked to realize they don't know how to enjoy good moments anymore. Reclaiming joy begins with recognizing that your happiness was never something you needed to hide, minimize, or feel guilty for experiencing. One of the quietest ways a narcissist takes your joy is by slowly replacing your curiosity with constant self-doubt. Curiosity is one of the most important parts of a healthy and fulfilling life. It inspires you to learn new skills, explore different opportunities, meet new people, and discover talents you never knew you had. It gives you permission to make mistakes because every mistake becomes a chance to grow. In a supportive relationship, your interests and ambitions are encouraged, even if they seem uncertain at first. You feel safe enough to explore because someone believes in your potential. A narcissistic person often responds very differently. Instead of encouraging your growth, they quietly question it. They may laugh at your ideas, dismiss your goals, or make comments that seem harmless but slowly chip away at your confidence. They might say, "Do you really think you can do that?" Or, "You're wasting your time." Sometimes they compare you to someone they believe is more successful or more talented. Other times they simply ignore your excitement altogether, making you feel invisible. These responses are rarely loud enough to be recognized as abuse, but they gradually become the voice you hear inside your own mind. As this pattern continues, you begin second-guessing every decision. Before trying something new, you automatically think about everything that could go wrong instead of what could go right. You stop taking risks, not because you lack ability, but because you've been conditioned to expect criticism instead of encouragement. Dreams that once excited you start feeling unrealistic, and hobbies that once brought you peace begin to seem pointless. Over time, your world becomes smaller. You stop exploring, creating, learning, and challenging yourself because it feels emotionally safer to remain where you are. The tragedy is that you may believe you've simply lost motivation, when in reality, you've lost confidence. Healing begins when you recognize that your curiosity was never the problem. It was suppressed by someone who felt threatened by your growth. The moment you begin trusting your own instincts again, you also begin reconnecting with the excitement, creativity, and sense of possibility that have been waiting beneath years of self-doubt. One of the most damaging effects of living with a narcissist is that every peaceful moment begins to feel temporary. At first, you may not notice it happening. You enjoy a quiet evening together, a holiday, a family gathering, or a simple conversation, only for it to suddenly be interrupted by criticism, blame, or an argument that seems to come out of nowhere. You start asking yourself, what just happened? Because everything seemed perfectly fine only moments before. This unpredictability keeps you emotionally off balance, making it impossible to fully relax or enjoy the present. Over time, your nervous system adapts to this constant uncertainty. Instead of appreciating peaceful moments, you begin waiting for something to go wrong. If you're laughing with friends, part of your mind wonders how the narcissist will react later. If you're celebrating an achievement, you prepare yourself for a sarcastic comment or an attempt to steal the spotlight. Even during vacations, birthdays, or special occasions, you struggle to feel completely happy because experience has taught you that good moments often end in emotional chaos. This constant anticipation slowly changes the way your brain responds to happiness. Rather than feeling excitement, you feel tension. Rather than feeling safe, you remain alert. Your body stays in survival mode, scanning for signs of conflict even when none exist. You may notice yourself overthinking simple conversations, carefully choosing your words, or monitoring the narcissist's mood before allowing yourself to enjoy anything. Their emotional unpredictability has trained you to believe that peace is fragile and that happiness can disappear without warning. Many survivors are surprised to discover that this pattern continues even after the relationship ends. They finally have a quiet, healthy environment, yet they still feel anxious when life is going well. They expect criticism that never comes or conflict that never arrives. This isn't because there's something wrong with them. It's because their nervous system has spent so long preparing for emotional attacks that calm feels unfamiliar. Healing begins when you slowly learn that peace doesn't have to be followed by pain, and that true happiness can exist without fear waiting just around the corner. One of the quietest ways a narcissist takes your joy is by gradually making your world smaller without you even realizing it. This rarely begins with obvious control or direct commands. Instead, it happens through subtle discouragement, emotional pressure, and repeated situations that make maintaining your own life feel more difficult than it's worth. At first, you still spend time with friends, visit family, enjoy your hobbies, and pursue the activities that make you feel alive. But each time you do, there seems to be a consequence. The narcissist may become distant, start an argument before you leave, accuse you of not caring enough, or create a problem that demands your immediate attention. Eventually, you begin avoiding these situations simply to keep the peace. Little by little, your social circle starts to shrink. You stop returning phone calls as often. Invitations become easier to decline. You convince yourself that you're just busy or tired, when in reality you've been emotionally conditioned to believe that choosing yourself will always come at a cost. The people who once brought laughter, encouragement, and perspective slowly disappear from your daily life. Without realizing it, the narcissist becomes the center of your emotional world. As your world grows smaller, so do your opportunities for joy. Healthy relationships, meaningful conversations, shared experiences, and personal interests all contribute to emotional well-being. When these sources disappear, it's easy to mistake the emptiness for depression or personal failure. In truth, You've simply been disconnected from the people and experiences that helped you feel like yourself. One of the most painful moments in recovery comes when survivors ask themselves a simple question. What do I actually enjoy? Many struggle to answer because they spent so much time organizing their lives around someone else's moods and needs. Their own preferences slowly faded into the background. Rebuilding your life means reconnecting with the friendships, passions, and experiences that once made you feel alive. Every phone call you return, every hobby you revisit, and every new memory you create reminds you that your identity was never truly lost. It was simply buried beneath years of emotional control, waiting for the opportunity to grow again. One of the most powerful ways a narcissist quietly takes your joy is by teaching you to ignore your own needs. This doesn't usually happen overnight. It develops through countless small moments where your feelings, comfort, and well-being are treated as less important than theirs. In the beginning, you may willingly make compromises because every healthy relationship requires some level of give and take. But over time, the balance disappears. You become the one who is always adjusting, always sacrificing, and always putting your own needs aside to avoid conflict. Without realizing it, you begin believing that caring for yourself is somehow selfish. A narcissist often sends subtle messages that your needs are inconvenient. If you're tired, you're told you're overreacting. If you ask for space, you're accused of being distant. If you set a boundary, you're called selfish, cold, or uncaring. Even simple acts of self-care, like spending time with friends, enjoying a hobby, or taking a quiet evening to recharge, may be met with guilt, criticism, or emotional punishment. Eventually, you stop asking yourself what you need because you've learned that your needs will either be ignored or used against you. As this pattern continues, your entire focus shifts toward managing the narcissist's emotions. You constantly monitor their mood, anticipate their reactions, and adjust your behavior to keep them calm. Every decision becomes centered on avoiding conflict rather than creating happiness. This emotional hypervigilance is exhausting. It drains your energy, your confidence, and your ability to experience joy because all of your attention is directed outward instead of inward. Over time, you may lose touch with the simplest parts of yourself. You forget what helps you relax, what inspires you, or what genuinely makes you happy. Life becomes about surviving each day rather than enjoying it. Many survivors eventually realize they became experts at caring for everyone except themselves. Healing begins when you understand that your needs are not a burden. Rest is not laziness. Boundaries are not cruelty. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. The more you reconnect with your own physical, emotional, and mental needs, the more you begin restoring the joy that was slowly taken from you, one compromise at a time. One of the deepest losses in a narcissistic relationship is the gradual disappearance of your authentic self. It doesn't happen through one dramatic event. Instead, it happens through hundreds of small adjustments you make to avoid criticism, conflict, or emotional punishment. At first, these changes seem harmless. You choose your words more carefully, avoid certain topics, or hide opinions that might trigger an argument. Over time, however, these survival strategies become habits. You stop expressing yourself naturally because you're constantly trying to predict how the narcissist will respond. Eventually, your life begins to feel like a performance rather than a genuine expression of who you are. Before speaking, you mentally rehearse your sentences. Before making a decision, you wonder whether it will upset them. Before sharing your thoughts, you ask yourself if it's worth the emotional consequences. Instead of asking, "What do I want?" you begin asking, "What will keep the peace?" That shift may seem small, but it slowly disconnects you from your own identity. The narcissist often rewards compliance while punishing individuality. If you agree with them, they may seem pleased. If you express a different opinion, pursue your own interests, or show independence, They may respond with criticism, sarcasm, silent treatment, or emotional withdrawal. After experiencing this pattern enough times, your brain learns that authenticity feels risky. You begin hiding parts of yourself simply to feel emotionally safe. Many survivors are surprised when people tell them, "You've changed." They may not even recognize the change themselves because it happened so gradually. The confident, curious, and expressive person they once were has been buried beneath years of emotional adaptation, yet that person has not disappeared. They have simply been waiting for a safe environment to emerge again. Recovery is often filled with quiet moments of rediscovery. You remember music you used to love, books you once enjoyed, places you always wanted to visit, or dreams you set aside to keep someone else comfortable. You begin making choices based on your own values instead of someone else's approval. With every honest conversation, every personal boundary, and every decision that reflects your true self, you reclaim another piece of your identity. Authenticity is not just about being yourself, it is about allowing yourself to live without constantly performing for someone who never truly accepted the real you. Perhaps the most empowering truth about healing from narcissistic abuse is that reclaiming your joy is one of the quietest and strongest forms of freedom. Many people believe recovery begins when the narcissist apologizes, admits what they did, or finally understands the pain they caused. But that moment may never come. A narcissistic person often lacks the ability or willingness to take genuine responsibility for their behavior. If your healing depends on their validation, your happiness remains tied to someone who has already taken so much from you. True recovery begins when you realize that your future no longer needs their permission. The first signs of healing are rarely dramatic. They often appear in the smallest moments. You laugh without immediately feeling guilty. You enjoy a peaceful morning without waiting for someone to ruin it. You make plans because they excite you, not because someone else approves of them. You reconnect with an old friend, return to a forgotten hobby, or simply sit in silence without feeling anxious. These moments may seem ordinary, but they represent something extraordinary. They are evidence that your emotional world is becoming your own again. As you continue healing, you slowly stop measuring your worth through someone else's opinions. You begin trusting your own instincts, making decisions that reflect your values instead of your fears. You realize that saying no does not make you selfish, setting boundaries does not make you cruel, and choosing peace does not make you weak. Every healthy choice strengthens your confidence and reminds you that your life belongs to you. There will still be difficult days. Certain memories, places, or conversations may trigger old emotions. You may occasionally question yourself or wonder whether you've truly moved forward. Healing is not a straight line, and setbacks do not erase your progress. What matters is that each time you choose self-respect over self-doubt, you weaken the hold the narcissistic relationship once had over you. Joy is not something the narcissist permanently destroyed. It is something they temporarily disconnected you from through fear, control, and emotional manipulation. The laughter you thought was gone, the confidence you believed you had lost, and the hope you feared would never return are still part of you. They have simply been waiting for a safe place to grow again. Every step you take toward peace, authenticity, and self-compassion is a reminder that your joy was never truly theirs to take. It has always belonged to you, and with time, patience, and healing, it can become the foundation of a life that feels free once again. The quiet way narcissists take your joy isn't through one dramatic event. It's through repeated moments that teach you to doubt yourself, silence yourself, shrink yourself, and eventually forget the person you once were. But awareness changes everything. Once you recognize these patterns, they lose much of their power. You begin to understand that your happiness was never the problem. It was simply something another person couldn't tolerate or control. Your laughter is not selfish. Your peace is not a threat. Your dreams are not too much. And your joy does not require anyone else's permission. The greatest act of healing isn't proving anything to the narcissist. It's rebuilding a life where you can smile without guilt, celebrate without fear, and wake up feeling connected to yourself again. Because in the end, the quiet way they tried to take your joy can be answered by an even quieter truth. Every small step back toward yourself is a victory they can never take away.